G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it.
So Gail, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. I'm really looking forward to this discussion because I think you bring quite a different element to some of the discussions I've previously had on this podcast.
Thank you, Rob, for having me. I'm super excited to be here. So I'm thrilled. Anything I can do to help your listeners and your viewers, I'm thrilled.
I really appreciate that. That's great. So look, I might start off with getting you to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us a bit about what you do. And I thought I might open up with the question around, tell me a bit about the problems that people are facing that would trigger them to come and seek out your help and support. And that, I think, might just frame a bit of an introduction around who you are and what you do.
Yeah, there's a few different things that people would come to me for. One of them is the motivation element, and I talk about this a lot in my book, Unstoppable, but it's the idea of getting logical versus emotional in achieving your goals, because we often go to an emotional place, especially if we have big goals and we have things we want to achieve, and then we're afraid or we're concerned about success. So we have a fear of success, we have a fear of failure, we have a fear of rejection, we have a fear of criticism along the way. And Unstoppable is a means and a step-by-step plan that helps people kind of keep moving, set the plan and keep moving. Even more than that, my organization, Gail Kasper Television, LLC, is a communications training organization. So everything to do from you have a sales presentation and you want to raise the bar in terms of the value of that presentation so that you can set yourself apart from the competition, or you want to put yourself out there. They say that people that really want to advance are people that want to get noticed. So I'm a public speaking trainer. So I'm able to take people, put them up on their feet, help them craft a message that they could speak to any group, any association, any meeting about. And then finally, the last piece of that is I've been on camera for about 15 years. So everything today, Rob, is about video and social media and putting yourself in front of that camera. So I have the ability to help people do that and also craft those scripts so that they can routinely and consistently get them out there in front of their audience, in front of their viewers, in front of their social media audience, so they can attract more people to their company. So those are the three big elements, to really elevate who they are, their company, their products, and get known.
Which is a really important part of, I guess, growing a small business is getting noticed, getting in front of your audience, getting them to know who you are, what you're about, how you can help them. So I can imagine you're very busy at the moment doing all that.
I am. I work a lot, as I'm sure you do. I work a lot. But even like when you think about communication skills and you go to a networking event, you want to know how to approach that situation. And there really is a methodology for every single step so that you can connect with somebody and see if they're the right customer buyer for you. So It's the little things as well as the big things. I don't want people to feel that they just have to go become a public speaker. I try to cover all elements of the business, whether it is sales or yourself, or how do you communicate with your team? Because as a leader, that's important too.
Absolutely. And look, I guess one of the areas I just wanted to dive into, because I thought it was really interesting and I think it will resonate with our audience, is that I guess logic versus emotion, and how to use that framework to make better decisions and make better impact. So can you talk me through a little bit around your framework in that area?
Yeah, and I started out up until the time I was about 30, I lived stuck. meaning I was working for someone else, I was helping their dreams, I was doing for them. And I did move on and go into, another business, another company where I finally got my degree, which I had not finished. And I started to explore, meaning I said, okay, I don't know what to do with my life. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. So I started to take classes. Those classes revolved around leadership. I was a bad manager at the time. I focused more on the task than the people. The more I learned about leadership, the more I was invested in helping the people. And I've always been somebody that's been on my feet. So as a speaker, so I brought those two elements together, which opened my eyes to the fact that I wanted to be a motivational speaker. And that led me to work in a training organization, which led to other opportunities. But there was a fear inside me of just moving forward, any steps, even to go out and be out, because I had spent so much of my life in the beginning of my life working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
So I developed what's called a systematic attitude development technique, which is about what you said, getting logical versus emotional. And if you think of it in its simplest terms, I always use the example, we say to ourselves, I'm going to get up tomorrow morning, I'm going to work out. And then we get up in the morning and we say, you know what, I just don't feel like it. That's an emotional response.
I had that this morning, actually. So.
Okay. There you go. So it's that emotional response and it stops us. But if we were to just logically get up, go to the gym, work out, then we feel good about ourselves and we feel successful for the rest of the day. So what this plan does is it says, okay, what are your goals? Because we live in fear. We're uncertain. As a small business owner or a growing business, we are not sure sometimes the decision that we are going to make. Is that going to work? Is it not? So the best that we can do is formulate the plan. Like we've done that research. We've looked at, our customer base. We've looked at the needs and the wants of them. And then we start to set that plan that I'm going to do A, B, C, D. I'm just going to move it forward. What we tend to do is start. We don't see results right away. And then there's the emotion. It stops us where we don't continue to move forward. Yeah. Whereas if we develop that plan, you want to be in it 100%. Like you just want to keep going, because the reality is if we're going to stop ourselves before it even gets started, then we've failed before we've even had a chance. We've got to give it that 100% shot. So it's about taking logical steps, planning those steps out, and making sure even our team, they all have assignments. Everybody's got their goals that they need to attend. We have timelines on those goals, and we keep the process going. Because I can't tell you how many times in life, it's right when we're on the verge of success that we decide that we're going to quit. Yeah. And we haven't given it that full shot. We've got to do that. And systematic attitude development techniques helps you do that.
Yeah, fantastic.
Find it hard to define a clear strategy, then communicate it and execute it alongside the rest of your team? Or you currently don't work a simple quarterly strategic plan to boost your team's performance? Our Business Growth Formula online course is perfect for small business owners with 5 to 30 team members wanting to grow. We share the mindsets, habits and tools to be a legendary leader in your business. GrowSmallBusiness.com.
And look, from my experience working with small business owners who are looking to grow, I see that on a regular basis in terms of business owners who have a great opportunity in front of them, and all the logic and data would say this is the right way to go, but that fear of investing more time, more money, it's never guaranteed that it's going to work. What if one of my key staff members leave just as I've sort of taken the plunge, and they will freeze. And unfortunately, sometimes it means the business never really sees its full potential, and sometimes it fails because they weren't prepared to take that next step. So I think that's really interesting. I guess that you're developing a bit of a framework to help people move through some of those really difficult steps.
Yeah, keep going. It is so tough. And I mean, I've experienced it myself. I don't, it's not like, geez, I've just sailed through this and figured things out.
Yeah.
everything it's, I should say, very rarely do you just see something boom and take off.
Yeah.
It's these small business owners that are the framework of the world. They are what keeps everything going. And that small idea has the potential to be huge, but it just needs to be pushed.
Yeah, that's so true. And with that in mind, I guess I'm really curious to throw a little mini case study at you and just get your thoughts as to, well, how would you approach this if you were working with these clients, and what advice would you have? And if I give you this scenario, I was working with a business recently that works in, without overcomplicating it, they work in the technology space. It's essentially Internet of Things. So they have lots of sensors that measure different things, and from that they draw data and they run it through a software program which can give them insights. So that's a little bit about the business. It's only a small business, is sort of between, I think it's, at maximum 5 employees. And over the last sort of 3, 4, 5 years, they've worked with all sorts of different clients, sort of applying this technology, trying to find different solutions. But the last few years, I guess they've really they've stagnated. And I guess my read on it is that they've been trying to work with too many different clients, different industries. They haven't been solving a particular solution. So every time they work with a client, they're starting from scratch, trying to work out, okay, how do we
Try to figure it out.
problem?
Yep.
I guess where this has led to is some discussions around really strategy. Where are we going to focus our efforts? And they've got some fantastic wins in the forestry segment. And they've really been able to help their clients unlock a lot of value. And without going into too much detail, they can measure all sorts of environmental factors like wind speed and temperature and rainfall, and they can help their forestry clients manage controlled burns. And being able to manage that better is worth millions of dollars to the forestry companies. So they can see, wow, our technology can really be put to some valuable use here. But it'd be fair to say they're scared to put all their bets on one area. And again, they're a very small business, so limited resources. If they go hard at this sector and they start proactively setting up sales calls in the forestry space and trying to configure a better solution for the forestry space, there's all sorts of revenue that they're going to have to say no to, which is difficult when they're just getting by financially. So I guess I'm really curious to sort of throw that scenario at you and just get, I guess, your top of mind thoughts as to, I guess, how some of your material and some of your background might be able to help this client, and what sort of advice you may have to offer them.
Yeah, I was just taking some notes and everything that you were saying here, and thank God I was, because you gave me a rundown on the whole company. So it's like that's a lot. But I totally get what you're saying. And one of my challenges when I started my company is exactly that, meaning that, I started off doing some sales training, and I'm a little guy. I'm a little person, and that company who loved my work would say, well, do you have something on customer service? Well, I was able to develop something on customer service based on my education and my knowledge, but like I kept developing different products. So finally people would say to me, hey Gail, well, what is your focus? What is the one thing people know that they can go to you for? So I completely understand the challenge that they're facing right now and the need to bring in revenue.
Yeah.
But what I love here, based upon what you've said, is number one, that they've done some of that research to know, and they've worked with the forestry community, that they know that there is success there and it has worked. So
so in my head, that's kind of the logic bit that we're talking about. Like, we can see there's some logic there, but on the other hand, there's all this emotion.
Fear.
Fear.
Yes,
Yeah, and that's
yes,
important.
yes, they're afraid. I totally get it. This is where, as a consultant and a coach, that motivational person comes out, which says, let's look at all the successes you've had in this one specific area and the potential of this one specific area. And what you're doing right now isn't working because everyone's scattered. They're all going in different directions to try to keep it together. It's
Exactly right.
not working.
I didn't
So
even tell
why
you that, Gail, but
continue
you
that?
knew that that was happening. So it happens every time, every time.
Yeah, totally get it. So first and foremost, based on those things, like they have not wasted any time. That's the one thing I'd make them feel good about too. You've wasted no time. You've
No,
explored the different industries. You've explored what's
exactly.
going on. You found something that's great and working. And
Yeah,
sometimes companies never figure that out.
yeah,
So now you know, and you know what you're doing isn't working. So the option, the only one left, is to give it a shot. Give it a fair shot, and you're going to have those landmarks where you're checking in during that time. But you've got your motivation from your leader, which is your leader needs you more than anything.
yeah,
Whoever that leader is there needs you more than anything, because if they have a sense of fear inside them, the company, which is a very small company, is going to feel that. There cannot be any revealing of any type of fear from the leader. The leader's got to be like, we're just like a coach on a team. We're going in and we're winning, even if they're losing. No. We're going in and we're winning. It's that logical mindset. Secondly, when that leader is in place, the commitment of the team. Okay, we need everybody on board with this. What are the successes that we have seen in this specific area? And having them share those things back. Okay, let's take a look at the talents of each person, the strengths of each person. How are we going to make sure that they're implemented in this process? How are we going to make sure people are trained in sales? I'm going to get back to that, because where do I go to find this very specific business? And if I already know what that is, that's half the battle. If I know the places I need to go to find it, then I just got to start knocking on those doors, making those calls, reaching out to people, doing the online research. Um, so those would be the things that I would do, and it would be repetitive, and it would be difficult, at least for me as a coach too. Meaning, because if I'm not seeing it take off right away, I might be like, oh crap, like I might start to feel emotion, and there's no room for you to feel that. So
mhm,
it's the strength of the leader that's in the company, and it's the strength of you saying, we're continuing to go. And tracking how close are we to a sale with our next opportunity in this industry. So
yeah,
we're constantly saying, okay, well, this one's at 30%, this one's at 10%, this one's at 50%, but it might be beefing up that sales team to kind of see those numbers rise and see those deals close.
yeah.
So it sounds easier than it is. Nothing's
Yeah.
easy,
And
but
so
go ahead.
if I'm hearing you correctly, it's about um, trying to prevent prevent each other falling into an emotional hole by propping us up with logic. And we know that if the logic is there and supporting us and pointing us in the right direction, then it just becomes a matter of just putting one foot after the other and keeping going.
Continue.
Am
And
I
if they
interpreting that correctly?
You definitely are. And the other piece of that is, are there missing holes? And there might not be. So it's just a question I'm throwing your way. But are there missing holes in terms of, like, do they need to be a little stronger in their sales element?
Yeah.
Or do they need to market a little bit more effectively? Like, what are the holes? Is the team committed to the process where they need to focus a little more time on that? So yeah, absolutely the logic, but taking a look at the full board, what's in place? What do we need to do a little bit better?
Fantastic. That's really helpful, Gail. So I appreciate your feedback there.
Sure.
Look, I guess one question to throw at you, and I know this is a fairly broad question, but your experience, I guess, personally in small business and your experience working with small business owners, is there one particular area in the material that you specialize in where you can draw a particular piece of advice that you think is applicable to most small business owners, that they should give some thought to when they come into the office on Monday morning. I guess if there's one thing they need to be thinking about and remembering, what would that be? Or, is there a real standout point that you think, look, of all the things, like there's so much to be thinking about, but here's the one thing that, could really make a difference for you next week?
One of the things I talk about in my book, Sell Like a Cockatoo, is to ask employees, why are you here?
Yeah.
Why are you here? Because I hear different answers in situations like that. Like, I'm here for the money, I'm here for advancement, and all good stuff, important stuff. So I'm not discounting it, but a belief in the product that you have, a passion for that, is going to take any company over the top, and it's going to get people to understand it more and learn it better so that they can present the value of that in any situation. The more belief that people have in what it is that you are doing, the more likely that you're going to get to those next levels. You can't be standing in it by yourself. You need that army with you that can support your efforts.
Yeah. I think that's incredibly valuable. And, one of the things we talk about often is that people is probably the hardest bit in small business, but it's
Sure.
also where the value is. If you can't get the people right, then you're leaving all your value on the table. So I think that's a really good way to close off. And I guess, look, just as a final point, for those people out there looking to find out a bit more about you, how do we best find you?
It's so simple, because my name is Gail Kasper, and it's Gailkas as in Sam, P as in Peter, ER. Just go to gailkasper.com. You can find out everything about me there, and my social media links, and my books are there, so everything is right there.
Fantastic.
Rob, I have had such a good time.
Thank you so much for the chat. I really appreciate it. There's some absolute nuggets of gold in there for our small business owners. And again, really appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll have further chats on this in the future.
I would love that. That would be awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Gail.
And for our audience, we would greatly appreciate a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. More reviews means we bubble up higher in iTunes, etc. So more business owners looking for podcast help with their growth will find us.